whether that's a private loan, a hard money lender, or a bank. The more lucrative that you're purchasing it day one is really going to be what makes all the lenders kind of salivate. And to leave here with an action plan, so that way the next deal you come across, you can think about funding it in different ways instead of just the traditional way. And hopefully, through the course of tonight, you can network with other investors in here and they can share their experiences as well. So the 5 major funding sources, obviously the first is going to be a traditional brick and mortar, hard money lenders such as ourselves, private money loan, that's more of, not necessarily a business entity or a brick and mortar hard money lender like we are, but more of just an individual or a couple of individuals. There's JV partnerships that can be a mix of the two, and obviously using your own cash or a HELOC on any investment properties that you might have in order to give you the freedom to fund alternative deals. And they're all good and they all work depending on the type of deal and what your goals are. So it's always good to have a solid mix of relationships in each of those spaces, so that way that you have kind of the flexibility that you need either to acquire the property or to exit it properly. And in this purposes, we're talking about traditional banks, someone like Scott, Bank of America, someone like that. The benefits is that you're going to have the best interest rates because it's institutionally backed. You can typically get longer term amortization and calls, and it's a great tool for rentals. The cons is you need to verify all your financials. You got to be squeaky clean on paper if you're going to get the best rates and be able to move quickly. It does take about 30 days to close, so it's not the best avenue if you're trying to do a quote-unquote all-cash close in a week type scenario. And they're not very flexible in terms of what they're able to provide. They're going to have a strict program, and you're either fitted or you don't. You're going to have higher down payments as well, just because the way that their underwriting process works. But again, if you can make that work and you look good on paper and everything makes sense, then absolutely that's a good way for you to go. So local banks and credit unions are going to work best in the real estate space. Somewhere you can have a relationship, you can actually talk to somebody. Any of your HSBCs and your bigger national banks are going to be more difficult. If you can if you can go in, develop a relationship on a day-to-day basis, that's going to be your best avenue. And it's all about relationships. All of them are. So hard money lenders, one of the benefits of us, it's easy, flexible, and fast. Little to no cash out of pocket, depending on if you're buying at the right price. And it's going to be more expensive, but the benefit is you call us on a Monday and you need to close late Tuesday or early Wednesday, we can make that happen. So where do you find your local hard money lenders? Obviously, we're putting on this event. But really, whoever that you're working with, you really want to develop a relationship for the long term. That's going to enable you both to move very, very quickly. And for us, for example, once we develop a relationship with the client, it allows us to be more aggressive with the loan amounts, and it allows us to do things that we wouldn't normally be able to do. So don't burn those bridges. Now, private, this is your kind of individual loans. The benefits here is you could probably structure them how you see fit after you've developed a relationship, and every individual private lender is going to have what suits them best, whether that's bigger DC deals, multifamilies, that type of thing. And you're going to have lower or no cash out of pocket because they're wanting to deploy most of their capital. And the con is, one, that they're harder to find because there's not a lot of advertising in that space, but two, also managing them. Us as a lender, when we lend on a particular property, obviously as long as payments are being made and the rehab's going along, we're not in your hair. When you get into private individual, all of a sudden they have opinions about what you're doing. Do you want somebody micromanaging your rehab, or you just want to be able to go and knock it out? Private lenders are going to be best found through your first and second degree network. We don't know who you know or who you don't know, and that's really networking events like this, the RIAs, anywhere that you can find somebody that might have deep pockets. There's a self-directed IRA investors. We're starting to see a lot more of that because they can't do self-dealing. Real estate meetups, coaching groups, that type of thing. That's going to be core. It's who knows a guy that knows a girl that knows a guy or a girl that will lend. And a big point also, private lenders are only going to lend to somebody they can trust and have a relationship with. There's not going to be a big loan packet to fill out or anything like that. How many people in here have done a JV deal before? All right, cool. So JV or joint venture is going to be kind of an easy, fast, and flexible way to do it, where you find somebody to partner up with you on the money, you run the rehab, or vice versa. You provide the money and they run the rehab. It can be zero cash out of your own pocket, but obviously you're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting in terms of managing the rehab if you're not going to have any of your own cash in the deal. It's going to be more expensive for sure, because you're going to be giving up typically half your profit. So it's just something to consider, and you really want to know what your net bottom line profit's going to be when you calculate rehab overages, realtor commissions, seller concessions, because what starts as a profitable JV deal, once you're coughing up 50% of the profits that are there, that can quickly be eliminated. So how to find JV partners? A place like this. Again, networking and relationships are going to be key to all of these ways to financing your deals. Utilize your network. If you're on LinkedIn, if you're on Facebook, ask your spheres of influence if they know anybody with a self-directed IRA that needs to deploy some capital. Real estate meetings, coaching groups, investing groups. And some, hard money lenders will also JV with you. For us, for example, we'll do a JV, but we're not going to do anything that's on MLS. And we have to be sure that the operator is solid, because at the end of the day, we're relying on them to come up with the rehab to then split the profits. This is one of those areas where the rabbit hole can go pretty deep, and it's one of those things that not a lot of people ask about. So if you're already working with the lender, hard money, private, otherwise, maybe do some of your own research, or we can talk here about it, and develop kind of a game plan as to use. Maybe you're doing the bulk of the loan through hard money bankers or another hard money lender, and then maybe you've got a private guy with a self-directed IRA to handle some closing costs. And then you'll develop a relationship with Scott, let's say if you need a long-term takeout on a rental. So we all have a role here. It's a symbiotic relationship. We're not really competitors. We allow you to do certain things, and banks will allow you to do certain things. So it's different types of funding or different tools depending on what you're looking to accomplish. Cash or HELOC, home equity line of credit. The pro is that it's going to be cheap and easy because the equity is already in the property. You're not having to worry about what's happening with the particular subject property because you're using another asset to produce that. The con is you've got to have that money already there, that equity already there in order to be able to use it. But again, if you've got it, that's great. But you can also, if you have a HELOC in place, again, you can leverage that for gap funds to do more deals with either a private lender, a hard money lender, or otherwise. So it's a good mix of how to structure those, and you can utilize the cash as gap funds. You can use it as all up front, or you can do a mix of both. So this one, it's, it's funny, this still needs to be said, but bad deals will always ruin a relationship with the lender. It's pretty easy to get, within the small market, DC, Maryland, Virginia, that we deal in, you can only have so many bad relationships before you run out of lenders to do your deals. And when things go sideways and start to fall apart, it's far easier to just be honest and upfront and have a conversation about what's happening so that we can talk about how to move you through it. And that's going to be the same with everybody. But the quicker you identify the problem, the quicker we can identify a solution for it, because just like you want a relationship for life, we want a relationship, and most investors want a relationship for life as well, to do multiple transactions. All the funding partners that we discussed, they need to deploy capital, and we need you to bring us deals to take a look at. And so if you do it right and you start to be profitable on deals, you come to networks like this and other networks, and you start to put your name out there, talk to folks. It's just a natural process that occurs over time that you'll start to get deal flow. Especially, we love referrals. Who doesn't like referrals? And that can be from a myriad of angles, whether it's an agent, a lender, a private guy. We have clients that, will do a deal a year if we're lucky, because they have a primary private lender, but that lender might be limited on resources at any one particular time. So, the key idea is maximizing what you have to get the most leverage, because you put an offer on a short sale, you don't hear anything, and then all of a sudden you got to close in 10 days. If you've got all your cash tied up in one deal, then now you're stuck. Q&A? Yeah. Either or, that's fine.
Yeah, I'll do it.
All right.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, you flew through that a lot quicker than I was expecting on some of this. Let's do this. We're just going to add a little bit of a segment to this, and I'll bring up Ian and Terry as well. And maybe we'll just go over, we can start with maybe going through any questions that anyone may have related to different funding sources. As a hard money lender, we've obviously raised a lot of capital over the years. Terry Royce, who's going to be walking up here in a second, has raised a lot of capital either for private investors, joint venture partners, banks, as well as Ian on his projects on the front end, and then getting bank takeout. So we can concentrate, maybe for the next 5 or 10 minutes on individual questions that you may have related to capital sources. It could either be related to raising private capital or just any other funding source in general. So Ian and Terry, you want to come up here real quick? And if you don't know me, I'm Jason Balin from Hard Money Bankers. Chris and I are partners. So I think what we're going to do first is let's focus on some capital sources. I'll meet you guys in like in a second or two. So does anyone have any questions related to capital in general? Ways to raise capital for fix and flip properties, for rental properties, maybe some advice of what investors are currently doing right now? Sure, go ahead.
What's your advice on planning capital for fix and hold, rehab and hold?
Rehab and hold.
Especially in both of those cities.
Okay. So acquisition money, then construction money, acquisition and construction money, and then the long-term rental stuff. Okay, I'm gonna let Ian talk in a second related to the long-term stuff, because he owns a lot of rentals in the city and he'd be a good person to talk on that. I know that.
But I think planning is like outrageous amounts for points and facilities,
Sure. Okay. So his question is about trying to figure out ways not to pay high interest rates and high points on deals. So the options, there's two typical options. You can either go out and raise private capital from private investors and take the time, the heavy lifting, spend time and resources on trying to go raise capital, or obviously go through a hard money lender who's already done the heavy lifting to raise private capital. And yes, it might be a little bit more expensive, but again, you gotta weigh time versus money on that. So obviously, like Tony was talking about, there's a huge benefit of going to raise private capital because you can typically get it maybe a little bit cheaper. You can create the terms, you create the relationship. But again, you got to do some heavy lifting in order to find capital investors. And every single person knows, you may not know this at the time, but you have access to private capital just through your network. And it may not happen overnight. It may not happen, hey, I need $50,000 to acquire a deal. That may not happen in the next 24 hours, but as you progress in your real estate career and you meet people and they learn from you what you do and they trust you, over time they want to deploy capital. They want to deploy capital with you. So the option is either try to go raise the capital. If that doesn't work, go to someone who already has the capital available. And yes, it may be more expensive. Why don't you jump in and relate to what you do on your rentals?
Sure. Talking about rentals, I'm going to go back a step. Let's start with your front-end financing, right? You're asking about the echo is terrible. Anyway, talking about the front-end financing, the points for the hard money. Yes, it stinks. Especially $100, $200, $300,000 deal. But you got to remember, it's a cost of doing business. And that's how we view it. We still use hard money today. We use private capital. We use bank financing. We use every resource on the front side because it's about getting the deal done. So this is not a pitch. It's literally it's cost of doing business. Can you roll it on the back end when you need to refinance the property? Other front side financing options. There are banks that will finance you on the front side. We have lines of credit that we utilize, and there's advantages and disadvantages. Sure, it's cheaper, you're at 5, 6, 7%, but it takes a lot longer to get done. The fastest is hard money, private money, and bank financing. I know Scott, his bank may or may not do it,
He delegates you to do
but there
t-shirts?
are banks that are out there that will handle that. Now on the backside, the advantage
We just walk up to
using
people to
hard
ask
money or
questions.
private
Yeah,
capital
what size
is
t-shirts you want,
when
brother?
banks want to do, say,
Like
loan
Chris
to
did.
cost, you've done the work, you have this loan, you're able then to refinance the property, and what your budget is, you're able to show them, here you go, I need to get this refinanced. Back-end financing, there's a ton of products out there, local banks, national lenders, other institutions that will finance you. I will say establishing a relationship with a local bank is your best option. We've had the best success setting up guidance lines of credits, doing portfolios of properties with them. It's been the best. From there are national lenders out there. Some of them want $500,000 plus loan size, so it's a little harder to aggregate. The national lenders, while they're good, they say they're non-recourse. There are issues on the length of time to close because they're taking the money, they're funding the deal, and they're selling the loans at Wall Street the next day. So it takes a while to get the loans done because they need to be able to, they don't keep them, they sell them. And they want to make sure when they close your loan, they sell them, they're not stuck. So again, I would take the time, establish the relationship with local banks, and work from there. Did you have another question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, you know when this local banks that actually, do put in on,
I would ask Scott, there's definitely other ones out there. It comes down to your market, your demographic, where you're working, what banks align. We spent a lot of time talking with this about other investors, is that it's about what you're doing, it's about your story. If you present your story to the bank, getting the financing should be easy, right? If you go to Scott and say, hey, I'm working in Columbia, Maryland, renovating this property, this is my exit strategy, this is why I'm gonna get it done, he can go back and present that. Or just talking with Scott, he might say, that's not for my bank, go call these guys, because it's a very tight community, and they all knew each other, and they'll pass you to the right person to get deals done. Does that answer your question?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Talk about like some exit strategies like that you use when you're using private money. So apart from like refinancing
exit strategies for private lenders. I mean, honestly, the best bet is the refinance, especially if you're holding the property. There's other ways, Jay could probably answer better than me, but you can make them equity partners in the deal if you can't get all their cash back. Other than that, selling the property, liquidating the property is the best way to pay somebody whole. You know?
Wait, why do you want to pay them off? They want their money back after a year, but you're holding it as a rental?
Yeah, it's a buy and hold, but you want to get them back in a reasonable timeframe.
I mean, I think it's whatever the expectation is on the front end, right? If someone, I mean, are they asking for their money back? Is this a real situation or is this just hypothetical? Okay. I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, we have relationships with investors that just want their money deployed, and it can be in the same project or it can be rolled to one project to the next, to the next, to the next. So it just depends. Obviously, if an investor wants their money out, I would do whatever you can in order to try to get them their money back. Maybe put another private investor in, assign the interest into a newer investor if you can't get a refi. Go ahead.
What's y'all interest rate?
13%.
What's y'all best interest rate?
13%.
But again, one second. The thing is, again, it's about the cost of doing business.
So 13% is annualized, right? So if you have the money out for a whole year, for every $100,000 you borrow, it costs $13,000. If you have it out for a few months, it's much more affordable. Using hard money, it makes sense to have a clear exit strategy and a project that can move pretty quickly. If you have it out for a long period of time, it gets expensive. If you have it out for 3 months, it costs a few $1,000, $4,000, $3,000.
But again, know that going into the deal, right? If you know it's going to cost you $13,000 on a $100,000 deal, know that you got to back out $13,000 when you sell the property or you refinance it or whatever it is. That's literally just a line item budget cost for you on day one.
Go ahead. 13%. Okay. Yeah, that's our business model. Different people have different models. Go ahead.
Is it a pro or an advantage or disadvantage of purchasing a property in your individual name versus the LLC?
You want to answer this?
Is it one better than the other?
Are you holding the property?
If you're holding the property and you're gonna go out and get back-end financing, know what the lender wants. A lot of the lenders in the commercial real estate space prefer that it's done in your LLC name. And I think I don't know if it's a legality issue for them. Look, when we did our first 5, 6, 7 properties,
We put everything, thank God, I can't stand this thing. We put everything in our name, right? Because we knew that's what we wanted to do. We had a back-end financing piece that worked for us. They allowed us to put it in our personal name. For once we started getting commercial loans, we had to put them in our LLC name because that was a bank requirement, and we just followed the guidelines. I'll tell you right now, I bought a property thinking I was getting a bank loan, and it cost me $2,500 to retitle it because I didn't know where I was putting it on the end, right? So know what your exit strategy is on the back end, you'll save money. Now, if you put it in your personal name, that's fine. You can always drop it down into an entity and not pay money to the state that's under $1 million, right? But you can't take a property from an entity that you own and put it back in your name without retitling and paying a fee. So just know what your exit strategy is and it'll work out a lot better.
Does anyone have any deals that you wanted some opinion on? A deal you may be working on, if you think it's a good deal, bad deal, a situation, something you're unsure of? Go ahead.
I just walked in, right? Are you actually hard money? Are you actually
We are?
in Philly?
Yes, we have an office in Philly, yes.
All right, good. Don't deal with Philly.
Cool.
We talk. Okay, I just walked in.
I don't know what's up with this mic. Yes, so situation you want to run by, a deal you're working on, a deal you're just unsure of, a deal that maybe a wholesaler sent you and you don't think they're great numbers on and you want an opinion on it, anything. And we got free T-shirts too here if you get a scenario that we talk about. Go
All
ahead.
right, so my partner and I, we actually put in an offer in Des Moines, Iowa, for a
Okay.
7-unit apartment complex through a syndication deal.
Okay.
So we offered it at 260. It was listed at 325. So we basically negotiated 3% interest, 25-year amortization, 5-year balloon, and then the total closing at 50,000. Just your thoughts in terms of it's capped rate at like 13% right now.
What was the 3% interest you said?
3%.
For what?
Is your owner financing?
Oh, you're owner financing the whole thing?
Yeah, we're gonna finance the whole thing. Yeah.
You owner finance the whole thing.
The seller finance.
Seller finance the whole thing, but then you're putting up 50,000 out of what? 360?
Out of 260.
Out of 260. Okay.
Any batteries?
I'm gonna have to scream, which is fine. Okay. So my personal opinion, I wouldn't do that deal because I only do deals locally in areas that I know, areas I'm comfortable, areas where I have resources in. I know that's a big thing with a lot of people. I think if a deal like that was local. Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, talking that because it is good. That's a good one.
It's 260,000.
Large?
Purchase price with $50,000 down payment, over 25-year amortization at 3%, and then it's a 5-year balloon payment. And it's in Des Moines, Iowa. And to your point, we have boots on the ground in Des Moines, Iowa. So right now, it's 3 partners going in on the deal. There's boots on the ground in Des Moines, 40 minutes from the unit. So there's people on the ground.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, if I could get myself comfortable with the asset, which it would be hard for me to because I don't know that area personally. I think those numbers are good. Obviously, seller financing deals are great, especially at those terms. I mean, you're into that thing at $50,000. So what's that? Like 20% of, 15% of something like that of the overall deal. What is it cash flow currently?
Right now, I think it's cash flowing. I'm not on that right now.
Is it fully occupied?
Yeah, it's fully occupied right now. So we're thinking of doing 20.
What are the total gross rents?
Total gross rents? I think the NOI is 31 right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think in general, if you could wrap yourself around the valuation and you're comfortable with the area, I think on paper so far that those numbers work. What are your thoughts?
I'm a big proponent for local. That's just because maybe we're control freaks. I don't know. But, on a Friday night, toilet goes bad, I can still run out and go get it fixed. I don't have to worry about that problem. If you have management in place, you got boots on the ground, you have the wherewithal to handle it, then sure. It seems like monetarily so far, it seems like a decent deal. I don't know cash flow. Just we're big advocates of investing in your backyard, see, feel, touch, what's local to you. And if there's ever a problem, you can always handle it.
All right.
What class neighborhood is it?
C-class.
What do you think, Terry? Yeah. Terry was just trying to hold it.
There's a lot of power in there.
Yeah, give that to him. Give that man a T-shirt. What's your name?
Matt.
Matt. Good to meet you. Yeah, and go ahead.
General question in case this helps anybody else. With hard money lenders, first position, second position, how do you usually handle that if someone comes to you and says, I'm going to borrow money from another partner to pay for the down payment, and use you to help me fund the rest? How do you guys usually handle that? So the partner, he's asking, would hard money lenders typically do second mortgages for the most part? So the partner that you're talking about, that's the down payment to get like a bank loan on the first, and then you still need more additional money? Like it's not enough to cover all the costs? Right. No, so in more specific case, I'm not going equity partnership with someone. Bob just wants to lend me 20% of what I need to get the down payment. I'm going to go look for the hard money lender for the rest of the 80%. And
with the hard money lender for 80%, and then someone will put up 20%?
Right.
Okay, so the hard money lender could be in first position then?
Yes.
That's
I have
that's
talked
good.
to some hard money lenders and they say absolutely not.
Well, wait, because they don't want a second behind them?
They don't want a second
Okay,
behind.
so that's a good question. So again, it depends on who the bank is, who the hard money lender is. Typically, in his case, he wants the hard money lender to put up 80% loan to value, and then he's got a private investor to put up 20%. And the answer is it kind of just depends. It depends on the deal. I mean, in a perfect world, someone's always going to want you to have your own personal skin in the deal, or a partner to put money in the deal. But if the deal's strong and it's a good collateral-based deal, then it's fine. So it's really case by case. I mean, we do a good amount of deals that the client we do a normal deal, and then the client has a partner or a second mortgage holder that just puts a second behind us. It's not ideal, but again, it just kind of depends. I mean, if it's local, we'll take a look at it and kind of let you know our thoughts. But again, every single different funding source, I know this kind of, might not be the best answer, but people want different things. Different banks like different requirements, different hard money lenders like different requirements. I mean, sometimes you could have a really good deal and one hard money lender be like, I have too many defaults in that area, I'm not interested in that. Or you go to a private lender and they just don't have an appetite for that particular deal. And again, a 20% down on a $400,000 project, 80,000 in, is sometimes a little bit different than on a $50,000 project. So it's somewhat case by case, but I definitely think you have something to work with on that. I mean, obviously the next part would be is, do you have enough money to start the construction work if it's a rehab loan? Because keep in mind, if you can only scrape enough funds together in order to come to the table with closing costs, that's not typically enough to make a deal work, because you got to do the construction work on it. You got to start construction. You potentially got to make monthly payments. So, but in general, I think you got something there.
30% on the front end. And let's say for buy and holds, do you also, I guess, help recommend, or do you guys do any buy and holds like on the back end?
So we don't do long-term loans through hard money bankers. Typically, lenders that will do longer-term loans have some sort of bank or institutionally backed capital associated with them. And to be honest, there's quite a bit of liquidity in the marketplace right now. There's a lot of capital in this space, so there's a lot of people that are doing those types of deals. So you go to a local bank. I don't know what the going rates are, maybe 5.5%. Is that right now?
Yeah, roughly.
5.5%. You go to a national lender. It might be a point or 2% higher, but they might be a little bit more. They might be a little bit more flexible.
The information, like, are you able to say if we do a whole project, get out?
Did you give recommendations?
Yeah, I mean, we know a few lenders over the years that do that exact. Yeah, so we'd be happy to help and put you in touch with, with someone. There's a few lenders that we know.
Don't miss Scott on the way out the door.
Yeah. Go ahead.
How long, what is the maximum number of terms? What is the maximum time that?
For a hard money loan, typically about a year.
So what happens, let's say, after all of these,
You can do them.
Started going south, and I could, let's say we cannot sell the property.
Well, it depends on the situation. I think a bank and a hard money lender actually are somewhat common in this particular answer, what I'm about to say. They want to keep their money deployed on a good project that's making payments. As long as you're in good standing, you make monthly payments, you can potentially modify the loan, maybe extend it for 3 months, 6 months, or a year to keep the project going. Obviously, if it's good standing. If it's not in good standing and payments aren't being made, construction's not getting completed, it might not be the best result. But as long as someone's in good standing, I think with anyone you get money from. I mean, I think even if you get money from a private lender, if you do a good job with it and you're performing on the loan, capital wants to be deployed. Everyone who has capital, they want to keep their money on the streets in a good asset. That's an important concept. And I'll tell you one thing that one real good tip that we've learned after raising capital: good deals find capital. It's just as simple as that. If you have a good project, it's always easier to find capital on that. I remember in 2007 when we went out and started raising capital, we didn't have any deal flow. Our first instinct was, let's go find capital investors to get money from. And surprisingly, almost every capital investor we talked to was very interested. They were like, oh, great, you can spit out potential double-digit rates of return. I've got first lien position. You have good collateral to work with. I'm in. Show me a deal. And we didn't have any deals at that time. So by having a good deal, you kind of use that to bring in capital. And It doesn't happen overnight. It's not like you're going to go talk to one person at a meetup group that has private capital and say, hey, I got this deal. But it's important to recognize that a good deal always finds capital, because any single person that has money, private lender, hard money lender, bank, they all want their money deployed.
So I think I'm looking at the worst case scenario. Let's say if I need to extend the loan term, 13% will it still be 13?
What's that?
The 13% will it still stay the same, or what happens to that?
If you're in good standing, typically, us through a hard money lender, typically we might charge some more points just to do an extension. Go ahead.
So I got a deal that I'm working on, and
Okay.
that's why I asked you about the interest rate. We're gonna buy for $600,000, and it's assessed a little over $1 million. Got a pool, a tennis court, all
Okay.
of this stuff. 2 acres, 6,300 square feet.
Okay. Local?
Yeah, Pikesville.
Okay.
I'm actually looking for a hard money lender. Other than in the room that I answered.
Okay, so 600,000. He's buying it at 600, a $1 million asset in Pikesville. Any construction costs?
150.
$150,000 in construction costs. So most hard money lenders will lend 65% based off of the after repair value. So 650 in that case with a $150,000 construction holdback, meaning 500,000 towards the purchase, 150 towards the construction. That's what would happen,
At 13%.
At 13%. Exactly. So again, all those different funding sources, there's a time and place for every one of them. Sometimes hard money works great, sometimes private money works great, sometimes banks work great, sometimes your own cash works great. A lot of the times you kind of mix and match. Sometimes it's, hey, I want to use some of my own cash or my partner's cash. Sometimes I want to use a HELOC and then get a hard money loan and get some bank debt. So it just depends on the situation.
Here's a question for you on that. Is it cheaper to do a JV deal?
Depends on what the structure is.
Right.
A JV deal, if you're giving up 50%, that ends up being a lot more expensive than 13% if it's a good flip. But then again, the pro of the JV could be that you might not need any skin in the game. So again, the investors that are the most successful get very creative to figure out what works the best in each individual deal. Standing right here.
Question for Terry.
What's that?
Question for Terry. Someone's got a question for Terry.
Somebody needs to ask Terry a question. Not about financing.
Can we get an intro or?
Falling asleep.
You don't
Tell
know
me
Terry
about
Royce?
yourself, Terry. No. Terry, do a little intro about yourself.
A little intro?
Yeah.
My name's Terry Royce. I've been investing in the Baltimore market since 2007. Done around 500 deals, 400 plus of those have been wholesale deals. We currently rehab, we rent, we're doing about 100 deals a year in the Baltimore market. Like I said, about 80% of those are wholesale deals, so that is our specialty. And that's just us in a nutshell. If you guys want to find out about our properties, you can go to mddiscounthouses.com. That's our website.
Thanks, guys. You told me not to.
He already blew it.
Discounthouses.com.
He already blew it. Here, stand this way. Because that thing, yeah, stand right there.
Just close to you?
Yeah, right there.
All right, cool. And if you guys are interested in connecting with me, you can check out my website at wholesaledomination.com. It's got a lot of free resources on there. And you can, we have a coaching call we're doing coming up in the next couple months. Yes, ma'am.
I didn't pitch once.
He went aggressive. Terry, you gotta keep that mic over here. What's that?
Cap rates.
What particularly related to cap rates?
I guess you talk about like what the concept is, like what type of
Yeah.
properties you're seeing in the Baltimore area.
All right, she was asking about cap rates and what they are. It's screw it, I can't say it. Cap rate. Capitalization rate, or the rate of return on your money. Everybody looks at it different. You can look at it cash on cash. You can look at it leverage. However you want to look at it. For us, we look at our leverage return.
how flustered you are.
I'm not flustered.
Metro area, we
When Tony
target
finished, you're flustered.
anywhere
pissed
from
off.
18 to 25%, depending.
I'm on mic.
And that's leverage. That's our cash of the deals. We do achieve higher, but usually the
take a
higher
pic.
your cap rate, the most likely the area begins to decline, right? Because you're buying cheaper properties, higher rents, versus higher rents and stable or same rents, stable areas,
a little more cash out, your cap rate goes down. So your cap rate most likely is tied to the asset class you're investing in. So the lower it is, usually the higher class property you have, and that's what we see locally. Yeah. For us, we're like 18 to 25, that's leverage. Usually for that to happen, you're looking at a 10 to 12% cash on cash return. So if you look at the whole deal, you have 150 out, you're getting $1,500 rent or $1,600 rent to get those same numbers. So that's how we look at it. But we specifically look at the cash that we have in each deal. So if it's a $100,000 deal, the bank gives us 75, we have 25 grand out. And what the net cash flow is against our cash in the deal is what we look at as our cap rate.
Go ahead.
Do you ever deal in tax sales or surplus property?
I don't personally.
I'm not a tax sale guy.
What's the
scenario?
Oh yeah, Terry.
Surplus property.
Get that mic on.
The government, they don't
Come on this way.
something, so they have all this property.
Right there, Aaron Falls.
And they just sell it for whatever they're worth.
You want to jump in on that? I can. Do you know it?
Investing in and it's large enough to acres,
Motley, yeah, I know, Motley Crue.
I had a little experience with it. There's a guy named Ned Carey, who's a Baltimore guy. This is like his main bread and butter. Look him up on like Bigger Pockets. He's really easy to talk to. Nice guy. There's two different types of taxes you can go after. You can tax liens or tax deeds. Maryland is dominantly a tax lien location. So the lien, you have the, if you have a government tax lien, they take first lien position. And after that, you have construction, you have water, you have whatever else depending on the jurisdiction. A tax deed sale is places like Pennsylvania, where they might have other liens on it that you take in when you get the tax deed on the property. So you have to pay all the back owed liens on the property. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, in terms of the government, I've done a bunch of government deals. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, but I know that the VA, the USDA, and a couple other government entities are the only ones that loan on the government aspect. So they have to market in one place, whether it be the internet or on old days used to the newspaper, and that's it. By law, they don't have to market there. They don't show up in MLS, they don't show up on the Direct Vendor Zone. They show up on the one place that they market to. So the VA is VRM or something like that. In terms of the liens, most governments don't do just liens. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. If you want to talk afterwards, we can. But the lien, the government will tell you in some jurisdictions, like the Virgin Islands, a buddy of mine went down there, and they said, these are the minimum government bids on these properties. So he showed up at the auction, he was the only one, they're like, the lien on this property is $15,000. He's like, all right, here's $15,001. And he walked with the two condos and like, he goes Virgin Islands. This is all
in existence. How many?
What location? AG, Gorgeous, Prince George's. I'm with you, buddy. College Park. So if you show a track record and you can prove and explain the process to somebody like the hard money lenders, or even a private lender like myself, you can say, this is the process, this is how it works. Do you want a JV or do you want to lend me money at 10, 15%, whatever it may be? It's not that hard in mortgage majorities to find people to loan. There's a lot of people throwing money in PG County and DC, I'm sure you know that. So in terms of funding,
fully
you
charged?
just gotta show the process,
Fully
you
charged.
know what you're talking about, and get money from these guys. Because if you say, hey, these tax liens are X amount of dollars, then, you know, we'll lend it to you, if you're sure you can buy it from that process. But if it's the tax, so PG County, their tax lien sale is coming up sometime in the summer or in spring. So the government tells you these houses are delinquent, they haven't paid their taxes. They post it on our website, and then over the course of the next couple of months, that number of houses will double. Tax liens and tax deeds. The first one,
More than the same one yesterday.
you buy in bulk, give a number, and you pay for something.
No frills, no frills, man.
Dude, we're in Nashville for 5 days, and I had a pretty big 2 days because I had 5 days in Florida. And then you can just bring it back with the sweat. What's wrong with you guys?
Okay. So the tax liens, predominantly in Maryland, you get around 18 to 21% annually. So it ends up being like 1.4% or 1.3% every month. Once your money is in these deals, you can't pay it.
Test.
Right. So like if I decide to go out and buy some of these leftover tax liens, and I have, $1,000, $10,000 invested in it, I can't then sell my position to say even or anybody. Because once you're in it, you're entering to the whole thing. It's a long process. PG County and most of the counties, it's like 2 years. I think Baltimore is in a couple months. You can, once it's in there, you can close it within 6 months. PG County, you have to have it for at least 4 months before you can get a lawyer and then pay taxes on it also before there's questions. Does that help? If it doesn't, come see me afterwards.
Want me to put it in my bag so we don't give it to anyone?
The website's property list website is MD.
Should have had you up there.
MDdiscounthouses.com, and the site that we have a bunch of free resources on is called wholesaledomination.com. We have a bunch of different ways to find deals, some of our marketing pieces, things like that on there, and then just a good way to connect with me. Thanks.
Go ahead.
What are some of the hottest submarkets and neighborhoods in Baltimore that are wholesaling right now?
Wholesale,
Specifically for wholesaling.
right? I mean, everybody defines hot as different. Like it could be.
Okay, so specifically, any markets that are good for duplexes or triplexes? Are you seeing that right now with investors?
Most of the stuff we deal with is singles, because that's the broadest market where you're going to find the biggest spectrum of buyers. You start to niche down into duplexes, triplexes, multi-units, you're going to deal with smaller and smaller segment buyers. So we like to get what's easy to sell, right? It's easy to dispose of with wholesaling. You're trying to turn it quick, so if you don't have access to niche buyers and commercial apartments, things like that, it's going to take you longer to sell and harder to sell. As far as niche markets, we just go off of profit thresholds. So we'll buy anywhere from the worst blocks in Baltimore to the highest end neighborhoods in Baltimore, just based off of a profit criteria we set per deal. So it doesn't really matter to us. We're just going off of what we can sell for, profit spread, and that creates our acquisition price, rather than being driven by the neighborhood, because it doesn't matter where the money comes from. It all looks the same on the bank account at the end of the day, so I don't care where those properties are. And some of the best areas are the C neighborhoods, in my opinion, because you have a lot of cash flow buyers in Baltimore. When you get out into the counties, it's a little bit different, but I mean, just anywhere where the deal criteria works, we'll go after the deal. So I know I didn't like exactly answer your question, but I wouldn't, in our heads, we will operate a lot with our emotional intelligence, and we judge the neighborhoods based on, oh, well, this neighborhood's pretty, and this one looks like shit. But really, you just need to operate on where the profit is. And that's when you get rid of everything, you just look at it from a game perspective, it becomes a lot easier to look at deals.
Let me finish his question because I got a different view on that. So what we see is, and this is for people, mostly investors fixing and flipping, exclusively staying in the median housing price neighborhoods. Middle of the range neighborhoods. We do a lot of loans in Baltimore County. We do a lot of loans in PG County in the state of Maryland. A lot of median house prices, first-time home buyers that are buying a lot of these properties. Average, even though we do a lot of loans in DC, our average loan is still about $160,000, which means that the resale is $275 or $300,000. Obviously in DC that could be a little bit higher, but in general, that's what a lot of rehabbers and flippers are buying. Whoever is next. Go ahead and then, go ahead.
For the wholesaler, do you have a Tennessee due diligence period out wholesale? And what's the normal time?
Repeat the question though real quick.
Follow, you said something about class, neighborhood, we just kind of talk about that.
Sure. The first question you asked about due diligence period, correct? Like inspection period, things like that. So we'll put in the contract whatever the deal will bear. And by that I mean if the deal is really hot and a lot of buyers coming out, we'll leverage our resources and say, hey, we'll kind of coach the buyer and say, our contractor said, just so you know, our contractor doesn't have any inspection. We're putting up $1,000, $5,000 deposit, whatever we need to do to strengthen it. Obviously, we want a contract that gives us as much leeway as possible.
You're speaking next week. He ain't gonna get anybody.
But you have to really realize what's going on and kind of vary your contract by that. That being said, we'll typically put in, if we can, a 2-week, 3-week, but we don't really walk away from deals. We try to negotiate from a position of being stronger with our offer because we have a track record. We can show testimonials. We give all of our sellers with a credibility packet. It's like, hey, there's the deals we bought. Here's links to seller testimonials. We kind of coach our sellers to make them build that rapport, to make them feel comfortable with us, so we can kind of operate a little bit operate a little more leeway. So you kind of have to just go case to case. If you know the person's distressed, they need to sell today, they're like, I'm ready to sign now. You can kind of get away with whatever they're willing to agree to. If they're like, hey, I've got 10 people coming out, and you say, well, what do you need to do to sign right now? You might have to give up some in order to get that deal. So it just kind of really depends. Everyone tries to say, a lot of gurus try to say, oh, you need minimum a month or 2 weeks diligence, no more than $10 deposit. And you got to throw all that stuff out the window sometimes and just operate on what's going on with the deal. So, and then the second part of your question was. Okay, he was asking about the grading of neighborhoods, A, B, C, D neighborhoods. I mean, I don't have anything exact. I mean, A neighborhoods are going to be, to me, like there's 70-80% plus homeowner blocks. B is like 50 to 70% homeowner blocks, and then C is 50 to 40%, and then D is like 30% or less, like all rentals, board ups. So yeah, and then you got your war zones, which are just at the bottom. That answer your question? Cool, next one.
My final question is, I'm trying to vet deals for lots of wholesalers, and I have never ran across one yet that after I've vetted the deal, there was any deal on the loan, or just even that they're way out of line with, trying to comp something in their way, and then in reality, it comes down to it's completely different, whether it's just because it's 5 blocks over or 3, 0.3 miles over or whatever, but I just haven't found anything in 6 months or better of wholesalers that I've found anything that would come back to me and say it's worth it.
Let me go.
And I'm just wondering, where I might have a problem with the wholesalers, or is it just that the wholesalers out there are so greedy that they're
You could go first. We'll keep the mic away from Terry for this one. You do yours, I'll do mine.
This is the fastest way to analyze the deal. Terry Royce sends it to you, trash it, no, I'm kidding. Online deals are good. The market's in a real interesting spot. People are getting top dollar. Entry for people right now is super easy. People are overpaying. You're not wrong. I mean, we haven't bought the amount of deals that we bought 2 years ago. And we tell Terry all the time, hey man, you get more money elsewhere, go do you, that's fine. The thing is, it comes back to your investment model, right? If it's not working for you, you're not out of line, don't change your structure, don't change your numbers. you know, it's very easy, especially in real estate, to be like, I can stretch another dollar, I can stretch another 1,000, another 2,000. Next thing you know, you're overpaying by 10, 20, 30 grand. You're doing all the hard work, you're laying it all out on the line. It's not worth it. So if it doesn't fit your investment model, staying on the sidelines, having cash right now is probably one of the best positions you could be in. Me and Jay talk about it a lot. Having sideline cash right now, depending where the market goes, could be super positive. You know, as it goes like this, you'll have cash, you can buy, do what you need to do. So I hope that answers your question. Again, the market's just, you can't figure out where it wants to be right now.
Yeah, I mean, in general, we're in a very competitive market and deal flow is scarce. It's hard to find good deals, and that's the truth. And on a wholesaling end, you know, a wholesaler typically wants to sell for the most that they can get on the project. And, you know, there may be a lot of deals that they potentially wholesale that end investor doesn't end up making money, and they don't realize that for a year later. But again, it comes back to numbers game. You can't just rely on one wholesaler to send you deals. You know, use the wholesalers as just one bucket of generating deals. Potentially, you know, we've done lots of segments up here related to direct mail and other direct to consumer, direct to homeowner presentations. There's a lot of other ways to find deals just from wholesalers.
We've had a lot of success when the market started going like this with wholesalers. MLS has been really good in our own marketing and just working. Real quick, the other point I wanted to hit with you is sure, the wholesalers putting deals out and they're putting the top dollar on the back end, ARV, the lowest construction budget you've ever seen in your life. 9 times out of 10, I look at that and say, zero credibility, I don't even waste my time unless it's in my target area. So with that being said, if you find something that's close to what you're looking at, you think the numbers are almost lined up, look, Terry wants to sell deals, right? Call him up, go, Terry, like, let's be realistic here, man. I need to buy, you know, I want to buy this property, you want to sell it, let's work it out. Be a little more aggressive in negotiations. And then the other thing I think Terry can comment on is, just because you see deals come across your desk, doesn't mean they're selling. I see a lot of guys put a deal out, stupid number, and then like, I can't believe somebody paid for that. And then 3 months later, the next wholesaler's got it. I can't believe somebody's going to pay for that. What the heck? So you know it wasn't a good deal. It gives you confidence. So.
Yeah, I was going to add to that, kind of what Ian was saying. A lot of people, wholesalers, just try to put anything under contract, and you kind of need to vet your wholesalers and put them on the same way you would a neighborhood, your D class, your C class. But also be proactive and reach out to them and let them know what your criteria is. It's very specifically, because I can tell you right now, I brought deals to Ian right away that I need to move quick because we have a relationship. There's other people in this room that I brought deals to right away that don't hit the open market. And I know a lot of people operate like that. When you need to move quick and you're like, hey, I just need to get this done right now, you're going to go to the people that have expressed interest, that are proven they're serious, that you know right away they'll close. So you need to take some time and create those relationships, and it is a lot of work, but it will pay off down the road. And the other thing is, if you want to get the best deals, you have to go out and hit the ground and do the mailings, do the MLS, do all this. A lot of people like to look at wholesalers like me, and they always look at the P on my P and L, but they don't look at the L. There's a lot of expenses related to us doing deals. And I mean, our average cost right now, I think around like, give or take, $5,000, $5,500 just on marketing to acquire direct to seller deal. And that doesn't include all of our back end operating expenses, so forth and so forth. And so you just take that into account whenever your strategy is, that there's going to be a cost to that. You may get at a cheaper price. You have to decide where your highest use of time is. Is it to vet all the deals that wholesalers have, or is it to go out and put 10, 20 hours a week into finding your own deals? So, or do both if you have the time. So I hope that helps you out.
Good.
Good.
I see that the focus of this bill of single family space. I needed some information on those that do commercial, multi-family, mixed use, the percentage of in that space.
Yeah, so most of the stuff we focus on is fix and flip stuff, residential rentals, things like that, small multifamily stuff. I mean, there may be people in this room that do other larger commercial projects. As a lender, we do mostly fix and flip stuff. Ian typically does mostly rentals. Terry does mostly wholesale stuff, and we do some loans and commercial stuff, but that's not typically the focus. Any in particular question though related to some of that stuff?
I'm focused on the multi-family space. Yes. Currently, I'm on the CBS part as well. I'm doing, I opened up 8 units in Brooklyn,
Yep.
area, and I have a management team that's very large. So I live with on some of the trips for 3 months, I have not received a check from the bank.
Got it. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to let Ian answer this, but he has an 8 unit in the Brooklyn area in Baltimore, and it hasn't got rent for a few months.
Yeah, so with that being said, we do have apartment buildings, we have some commercial space, specifically multifamily, sure, it's easier to go in, vetted deals, and have a management team versus the single family space. My comment to you is your job, so my job as a property manager, right, we don't manage for anybody else, but when we manage our portfolio, our job is to manage the tenants, manage the contractors. Your job, since you've decided to hire a property manager, which is not wrong, that's fine, your job is to manage the manager. Your job is to call him, her, whoever, beat them down every day. Where's my money? Where's my P&L? What is going on? Why haven't I received money? That's your investment, right? That's your legacy. That's what you're going to pass on to your kids. Get that thing right, man. And I'm sure Jason can, or Terry can recommend some other property managers. But there are better property managers that can manage your property, and you need to wrestle that back right away. Like, that's uncalled for. Unless you are having major issues there, and it's probably worth a trip to Baltimore and say, walk me through why haven't I got paid for the past 3 months? Please help me understand this and see where I stand. It could be a communication issue or whatever. But in the end, the biggest point I'll leave you with, manage your manager. That's your job. That's what you need to do every day to make sure your portfolio is operating. Does that help you?
Yes.
Good.
Finance would you recommend, or maybe this may be the JP may be required, for buying commercial shells in Baltimore that in the past
Well, I would say the best bet in that space, usually commercial. It's easy to find bank money on commercial, as dumb as it sounds. I'm sure Scott will lend $1 million on a commercial deal before he'll lend me $1 million on single family deals. Whatever reason, that's banks' appetites. They love the commercial space. There are hard money lenders out there that will do that. However, usually in that deal size, you can find more attractive rates at the bank level. Once you hit the $1 million mark, you can usually get non-recourse debt, which is pretty easy to obtain, assuming you have liquidity in the net worth. In the commercial space, once you hit that $1 million threshold, usually that's where the non-recourse, small Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, those type of loan programs are out there available for the smaller size at $1 to $7 million, and they have pretty aggressive programs to fill that space in.
Well, I'm talking about something even small, like maybe 300K. That's happened to be right in primary development.
Yeah, it's a commercial space. Most local banks will do that. It doesn't really matter dollar size. For whatever reason, banks are more attracted to commercial space for the right type of commercial deals than they are the single family space. You'll find it's easier to get money for that than it is the single family properties.
Any hard money guys or maybe big guys?
I mean, we do, on a deal like that, we would do as is value. It's construction. You said of
It's a shell, but
it's
3 big units sold from the city next door.
Yeah.
Not the little guy, so.
Depends on the deal. I mean, all commercial stuff we do is always as is value. Honestly, we're actually a little bit more conservative on residential, which is a little bit, might be the opposite of what banks are. Just because the 30-day resale value, it might be harder to unload a property very quick compared to a residential property in our minds. So we're a little bit more conservative, but we do commercial deals all the time. Go ahead. Oh, his question was, Does anyone wholesale in Montgomery County? You don't have any deals in Montgomery, in MoCo, do you?
What's the question?
Do you wholesale in Montgomery County?
No, but they said something about finding deals?
He has a hard time finding deals.
What are you doing now to find deals? When you say some, how much is that? How many calls a week are you making? 100 mailers? We send 5,000 a week to buy 2 deals a month. Just from the mail, we buy about 8 to 10 deals a month from different sources. So we're sending, it might be 3,000 a week, but I mean we're sending thousands of mailers a week. And you can get lucky and send 100 and get a hit, but it's all based on volume and scale. Whether you're making calls, whether you're sending letters, whether you're sending MLS offers, it's all going to be by scale. If you send 100 a week, you might get a deal next week, but you might not get another deal for 8 months. So just when you say you have a problem finding deals, they're out there. You need to scale your marketing or offer submission or whatever it is. You're going to start to find data and trends, and then you're going to know that I need to send X amount of mailers to find one deal. I need to make 500 calls to get one deal, or 100 calls to get one appointment, and then 5 appointments means one deal. What's that?
Where do you get your leads?
Where do I get my leads? We do mailers, we buy from other wholesalers, we go to auctions, we buy off the MLS, I buy off of Hubzu, we buy anywhere we can. So you can pick one strategy, and I would suggest, if you're new, to focus on 1 or 2 strategies. If you try to focus on a bunch, you're going to get overwhelmed and not do any of them real well. Focus on the 1 or 2 that you're good at, that you like, and that you can expand quickly. And that's where you're going to have your best success. If you try to follow every flashy object, you're going to get distracted. You're not going to have success, or much success in any of the realms. So everyone always gets so, hey, where are you finding your deal? Where are you finding your deal? Where are you finding your deal? I can tell you that everybody that's finding deals, and whether they're doing reverse voicemails or cold calls or whatever, they all work. You just have to figure out what you like to do. So don't get like excited and flashy by like the hot new things that everybody's putting on Facebook and that the gurus are sending around, because that's what they do. They market the new things because they're flashy out there. You need to pick what you like to do and what you can do. Does that make sense?
Good.
So, Terry, kind of piggybacking on that, like, in terms of finding off-market deals, what processes have you found that have been successful? Just finding the off-market stuff that aren't on MLS.
I mean, everybody gets excited by the term off-market. Like, I don't care if it's on, I don't care where it comes from as long as the price right. But to answer your question specifically, we target inherited properties, we target code violations, tax liens. We do what we call geo-farming, which is we'll go into a neighborhood, run the map and the tax
as an idea, like a numbers idea for them?
What's that?
You want to do my Annapolis one as like an idea?
Kind of filter that out based on
What's that idea?
criteria we set.
Like off-market
So kind of
deal,
blanket
how much
mail
it
based
costs,
on
this is the
those
spread.
criteria.
This is what you'll learn on
Those are really the primary ways
explain
to
to
do
them.
that. And we're
If
working
you want.
on implementing
Which one's the Annapolis
SEO
one?
website stuff
The
as
one
well.
with commercial
But
residential.
all that stuff, if I switch gears
Yeah.
to SEO, and then with my
Let's see where this goes with
money in,
time-wise, but yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
That's what I'm saying about, I'd rather go narrow and deep rather than shallow and wide with my marketing when it works. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. To kind of find your niche and just.
Yeah, some people like certain things better than others, and are better. But some people are great on the phone, and some people would rather just let the calls come to them
And
and do a mail.
keep in mind, everybody's niche is different. It's whatever you're comfortable with. I mean, the most passive, don't have to talk to anybody approach is, hey, I'm just going to go on MLS. And the most active, probably one of the best approaches, I'm going to go knock on doors in my neighborhood. So again, it just depends on what you're comfortable with.
That help?
Yeah, yeah.
Anyone else? We're going to wrap up in a second, so if you have any other questions, now's the time. Go ahead.
So you guys were saying that you make loans when you purchase properties in you have a certain return on investment, that you can afford to do. What limit is that?
Say that question. Did you hear what they said?
Return on investment, I missed the last piece.
Yeah, the ROI that
Oh.
they shoot for on rentals in the city.
The ROI that we shoot for on rentals?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few different ways to measure it. Gentleman was asking about return on investment on rentals, back to capitalization rate. There's 2 ways to break it down. We specifically look at the cash flow
on the back end after expenses. Our target, depending on the type of property where it is $300 to $500 net cash flow on the back end. The other way, quick breakdowns, is some people do 1.25 times the rent or times the price of the property. So someone might do a quick analysis and say, this property at $100,000, I need to get $1,250 rent. And then the last way to do it is say, I got this much money into the deal, I want to get this much return, and it's all about the return. For us, we target cash flow.
That's not quite what I'm saying. If you are looking to buy a wholesale deal, right? What is your return on investment? What would be the dollar amount? What would be the percentage that you're looking for? To say that is a good deal, or if it's not a good deal, that you go after.
If you're flipping it or retaining it as a rental.
He was speaking about a wholesale, and he said it didn't make a difference what neighborhood it's in.
How much money he wants to make on a wholesale?
That he would, if that would determine whether or not he made the deal.
Break down what your P&L looks like for your average wholesale deal, percentage-wise and dollar-wise.
Sure, we typically try to target currently a minimum of $10,000 on any deal we do. And the reason for that is it gives us padding. Like, if it's in an area where I know a guy like Ian that I have a really good relationship with, I may squeeze that deal more. If it's more bread and butter, like they're all townhomes, I know like real strict what that criteria is. But that $10,000 mark gives us a little bit of room if the numbers are wrong, if the market changes, just to go up or down. And typically the average comes in higher than that. But just for our company, like you have to look at every deal as like a piece of your day. And I could go out and acquire twice as many deals, but our resources are going to get stretched and so forth. If you're new, I would say don't set any, and this is hard to say because I disagree with this, I think on a lot of levels, but if you're new and you're trying to get traction, you haven't gone to do any deals, like over 500, it's going to be proof in the model. And so just getting those deals closed, you're going to get the process down and so forth. Obviously, you don't want to be doing deals for as little as possible, but in the beginning, you just need to understand the process and get proof of concept. But as you grow your business, you definitely need to figure out what your threshold is. I mean, you might bump that up to 5,000 after doing 10 deals and so forth. And there are guys in DC that are looking for minimum $25,000 probably. It's going to depend a lot on your market and so forth. So we just try to target 10,000, and it just gives us a quick, easy way to say this deal got a little too tight. We're going to stay to our numbers. And a lot of times we might not get those deals in the front, but they come back to us, and then we get them at our numbers. So kind of just like the gentleman who was sitting there talking about looking at wholesale deals as the rehabber or landlord or whatever, you have to set your own criteria and stick to that, because otherwise you're going to be doing a lot of work for a little bit of money. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool. You're welcome.
Cool. Anyone want a last question or no? Go ahead. Last one.
Yeah, just piggybacking on that. What about on the flip side? What are
Speak up.
you guys?
Go ahead. I can hear him.
On the flip side, what are you guys? Once again, obviously it changes, but general like sort of rule of thumb, like you have an investment, like 15, 20, 30,000.
Yeah, so his question is the target spread on the profit, and we can go down the line, and I'm sure we all have different opinions. So my opinion on that is the goal is to try to get to about 20% of your all-in costs. So if you're all in at $200,000, try to make $40,000 on a flip. And that's a tough number to hit. It really is. We can't say we've done any flips in 2019 yet, but we, because obviously we do lending, but we did quite a few in 2018, and that was our target, 20%. I don't know if we had any that actually came in when it was all said and done to that, but we target 20%, and if we make 15%, we're happy. So going through that number, if we're all in at 200 grand, it could be our own money, bank money, private money, but let's say you buy it for 130 and need $70,000 in work, all in costs, plus some other costs. Let's say my costs are 200. We try to make about $40,000. Anything less to start with, the spreads get really slim as construction numbers or anything else goes over. What's your thoughts on that and yours?
I'll give you a quick thought. Don't waste your time flipping properties. It's the worst. I'll never flip another property ever in my life. We buy them, we keep them, we rent them. great cash flow. When we were flipping properties, it was a grind, man. You know, every deal that came through, you know, we've tried setting the minimums, percentages, return on investment, everything always goes sideways. In the end, just set a number that works for you, whether it's a monetary number, be realistic, or percentage, or return on capital.
Just tag me in everything, buddy.
I
know I saw.
In the flip
Everything.
space, 10, 15 grand on starter homes is realistic. Get up a little bit, $20,000, $30,000 short. But again, it's an exchange for your time, for money, and what it's worth to you. And I'll leave it there.
Cool. Want to thanks everybody for coming out. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Third Wednesday every month we meet here. Actually, Ian Horowitz is speaking next month. When's that? April 17th, related to rentals. So we try to mix it up. Usually every year we'll let a speaker kind of come back and kind of talk about some of the new stuff that they're currently working on. Do you have fresh content for this one compared to last year?
I do. New content.
New content. You heard it here first. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it, and we'll keep this things going. If you haven't joined our Meetup Facebook page yet, check that out. Just look under the Real Estate Investing Incubator Meetup group in Facebook. So appreciate it, and hope to see everybody next month. Yay! Chicken tenders, chicken nuggets for everybody. Chicken wings.